You think paying a few bills makes you important? My dad scoffed at Christmas dinner. My mom added, we've carried you for years, don't forget that. I laughed. Then carry this. That night, I canceled $7,400 in utilities and the car insurance. By morning, 9, their car was towed. My brother pounded on my door, my sister screamed. I just watched from the window, smiling. Christmas dinner at my parents' house always felt more like an obligation than a celebration. I went because I knew they'd guilt me if I didn't. I usually covered the food, brought the wine, paid the utility bills without being asked, even topped up Nate's phone when it got cut off. It was just easier that way, quiet, transactional. That was how my family worked. This year, though, something felt different. The air was heavy, and not from the dry turkey. Everyone seemed more bitter than usual. Nate showed up 40 minutes late, still wearing his work boots, tracking mud across the carpet. He dropped his keys on the table like he owned the place, then asked if I could spot him for rent again because he was between jobs. Lauren didn't say much until dessert. She just sat there scrolling through her phone, sighing loud enough for us all to hear. When she did speak, it was to ask if I could co-sign a loan for a new car since hers was acting up again. She already owed me over $3,000 from the last one. I tried to keep it light. I've been thinking about leaving town for a while, I told them. Maybe somewhere warmer, start fresh. Just a thought. That's when Dad put his fork down and gave me that look, the same one he gave me when I was 10 and knocked over a lamp, like I was a disappointment he hadn't figured out how to return yet. You think paying a few bills makes you important? It was quiet for a second. I thought he was joking. He wasn't. Then Mom chimed in like it was some kind of intervention. We fed you for years, don't forget that. I looked around the table, Nate smirking like he was enjoying the show, Lauren pretending not to listen but obviously hanging on every word, and my parents sitting there like I owed them something I hadn't already paid back 100 times over. I started laughing, not because it was funny, just because it was so completely absurd. Then take it, was all I said. I got up, grabbed my coat, and left. Nobody stopped me. I went home, sat down at my desk, and opened every account I managed for them. It was a long list: gas, water, electric, internet, phone, car insurance, even their Netflix. I had been keeping all of it going for years, quietly in the background. I wasn't being generous, I was just tired of the drama that came with saying no. So I said no, all at once. I shut everything down, called the insurance company, and pulled the plug on their policy. Their car was registered under my name, so I made sure they knew I no longer gave anyone permission to use it. I didn't expect it to happen that fast, but by 6:48 the next morning, the car was already gone from their driveway. At 7:30, someone was banging on my door, hard enough to make the window shake. Nate. I didn't answer. Lauren was calling me on repeat. My parents left 5 voicemails in a row, each one angrier than the last. I stood by the window with a cup of coffee, watching the street outside. For once, it was quiet. No one asking for money, no one sending guilt-tripping texts, just silence. I smiled. It wasn't about revenge, not yet. It was about peace. But I had a feeling they were going to turn this into something bigger, and I was ready for it. By noon the next day, text messages were coming in faster than I could read them. First from Lauren, half accusing, half confused. Did something happen with the power? Then, minutes later, why is Mom crying? Nate followed with, dude, my phone's dead. You cancel something? And then, you better fix this now. I didn't answer any of them. By 2 p.m., the voicemail box was full. The first few messages were Mom's soft attempts at guilt, reminders about how much they'd done for me. The later ones turned sharper, scattered with phrases like how could you? And after everything. Lauren just sent strings of question marks. Nate's last message was just you're dead to me. At 3:17 p.m., the door lock clicked. My father still had a key, I never bothered to ask for it back. He came in without knocking, without even calling ahead, like the apartment was still his. I was sitting at the kitchen table with my laptop and a bowl of cereal, and he stood there glaring like I'd just smashed his favorite chair. He didn't yell right away. He just held up a printed letter, the tow report, said the car had been taken at dawn, said it was my mother's only way to get to her doctor's appointment, and Nate was supposed to start a job that week. He paused, like I was supposed to care. I didn't. I asked why he still thought any of that was my responsibility. He started going off about family loyalty, how they'd housed me when I was young, how I owed them. I reminded him calmly that I had paid off their credit cards twice, covered Nate's failed rehab stint, given Lauren enough cash over the years to put down payments on 2 separate apartments she'd somehow still managed to lose. He didn't say anything else, just stared at me like he didn't recognize who he was looking at, then turned around and left. That night, I saw the scramble unfold in real time. They must have driven to the utility companies themselves, trying to talk their way into restoring the services. But everything was in my name, and I'd closed it all, not just paused it. To start new service, they needed deposits, IDs, verifications, and good credit, which I knew they didn't have. They were stuck. I turned off my phone and let the night come and go in silence. By the next morning, they'd moved on to damage control. I found out through a mutual friend that they were calling around, telling people I was having some sort of mental breakdown, saying I needed space, and that I was lashing out, that they were just trying to be patient with me. Then Nate came back. This time, he knocked. He stood in the hallway looking tired, no anger, just a fake calm. Said he wanted to clear the air, that maybe things had been said too quickly. Then he pulled a folded sheet of paper from his jacket, typed out, highlighted. It was a list of their current bills, rent, utilities, groceries, gas money, with a note at the bottom, we're asking for just this month. I took it, skimmed it, handed it back. Told him I wasn't doing this anymore. He stared at me like I just told him the world was ending. Asked if I really meant it. I said yes, and then I smiled, not wide, just enough for him to see that I was perfectly fine. I could see the panic hit. They weren't used to me saying no, they were used to me caving eventually. So I knew what was coming next. They were going to get desperate, angry, and then they were going to try to win me back. But this time, I wasn't playing defense. I was going to control every move from here on out, just enough hope to keep them coming back, just enough distance to make them sweat. They didn't know it yet, but I was just getting started. 3 days later, Lauren showed up. She didn't knock at first, just stood outside the building, texting me variations of "we need to talk and you're making this worse." I didn't respond. She finally knocked around 8 p.m., louder and more frustrated than Nate had been. I let her stand there for a few minutes before I opened the door halfway. She launched into a speech, clearly rehearsed. She thought a lot about what happened. Maybe things had gotten heated, but they were family fights, family forgives, and maybe if I could just help with the phone bill and get the Wi-Fi reconnected, the rest they'd figure out on their own. I told her I'd think about it. That was the first breadcrumb. That night, I sent my mom a message, just a few words, might be able to help next week. Need to sort some things out first. The reaction was instant. Suddenly, I was getting soft messages again. "We love you no matter what. Just want you to be okay." My dad didn't reach out, but I could feel his hand in the background. None of them knew how to function without my help, and they weren't even hiding it anymore. That weekend, I dropped by the house for the first time since the dinner. Everything was quiet. When I walked in, the place felt different, like the air had been sucked out. The internet was still off, the power was running off an emergency extension cord they'd run from the neighbor's garage. The fridge was half empty. They all acted normal, like nothing had happened. Nate was suddenly friendly, Lauren made coffee, my mom was polite, my dad stayed in the garage, not saying a word. I sat in the kitchen and asked them to tell me how things had been, how they were managing. They told me what I expected, barely. Things were tight. Nate's job fell through. Lauren's car had broken down completely. Mom had postponed her doctor's appointment. They weren't looking for handouts, they said, just a little help temporarily. I told them I'd think about it again and left. For the next 2 weeks, I kept them in limbo. I'd respond to one message every 2 or 3 days, always vague, never promising, maybe next Friday. Still waiting on something. I might have an answer soon. I watched them unravel. Nate started calling daily. Lauren tried flattery, even sent me photos of her trying to cook dinner at the house by candlelight. My mom started sending Bible verses. Dad stayed silent. Then one night around 11 p.m., I got a text from an unknown number, a photo of a legal document. The caption, "You'll be hearing from our lawyer." I read it twice. It was a draft, not even filed yet, but they were trying to sue me for emotional distress and reimbursement of past support. I laughed, actually laughed. It was desperate, sloppy, and stupid. But I responded, "Thanks. I'll forward this to my lawyer." I didn't have one, not yet, but they didn't know that. The next morning, I got another message from Lauren, no more friendly tone, "You brought this on yourself." They thought they could scare me, but they didn't realize that by trying to turn this into a war, they'd already lost. Now I was going to finish what I started. They thought the letter would scare me, they had no idea who they were dealing with. The document was sloppy, no case number, no lawyer's letterhead, just some copied legal phrases from Google and their signatures at the bottom. I stared at it for a minute, trying to decide whether to laugh or get angry. I chose neither. Instead, I opened a new Gmail account and created an identity, Mark Garrison, financial representative. From that email, I sent them a message filled with polite, legal-sounding language. I attached screenshots of years of bank transfers, utility payments, insurance records, and rent checks. I outlined very clearly that if they wanted to open this door, I was ready to walk through it. I mentioned terms like counterclaim, documentation, and intentional infliction of emotional distress. I said discovery would include their credit reports, full financial records, and anything else deemed relevant. They panicked almost immediately. Less than 24 hours later, Lauren texted me a string of apologies. She said she didn't agree with the lawsuit, that she hadn't seen the full letter, that it was Dad's idea, and she was just going along with it. Nate sent a single message, "Wasn't my idea." I told them not to. Mom didn't text at all, but she left a voicemail so shaky I had to listen to it twice to make out what she was saying, something about not wanting to lose me, something about just trying to keep the family together. I ignored them for 5 straight days. Then, out of nowhere, my dad showed up again, but this time he waited outside. He didn't use the key, didn't try to barge in. He stood there holding a small envelope, no expression on his face. When I opened the door, he didn't move. He handed me the envelope. Inside was a short note in his handwriting. "You were right. I won't deny it. We leaned too hard, too long. I won't ask for anything else, not money, not favors, just a seat at the table, if you'll let me have one." That hit different. He didn't stay long, just said he was done fighting, that if I ever wanted to talk, I knew where to find him. 2 days later, I went to the house for the first time since the fake lawsuit. There was no performance, no one rushed up pretending to be happy to see me. The place was quiet and cold, literally, they still hadn't figured out the heating completely, but they looked different, calmer, more tired, but less fake. Lauren was curled up on the couch reading an actual book. Nate was watching TV on mute, eating cereal out of a mug. My mom was folding laundry at the table. Nobody asked for anything. We sat in silence for a while before I asked how things were going. They told me, honestly for once, Nate had picked up a part-time job at a warehouse across town. Lauren had applied for a receptionist gig. My mom had managed to set up new accounts with payment plans, and Dad had been using public Wi-Fi at the library to send out resumes. I nodded, didn't say much. I didn't offer money, didn't suggest better options, I just listened. That evening, something shifted. We talked, not about the past, not about money, but about the weather, neighbors, how weird it was to live without internet. It wasn't much, but it felt real. Over the next couple of weeks, they figured things out slowly. The power came back. They bought a used car. Nate paid for his own phone plan. Lauren stopped sending me passive-aggressive memes about abandonment. They still had their flaws, that hadn't changed. But something else had. For the first time, our relationship wasn't built on guilt or obligation. It wasn't about who owed who what. I wasn't a safety net anymore, I wasn't their backup plan. I was just Daniel. And somehow, that was exactly what they needed. It began in the smallest ways, no dramatic apologies, no teary phone calls, just small, unexpected changes that didn't feel like manipulation. For once, Lauren texted me one morning with just a simple, "Hope today's good for you." No follow-up, no links to her GoFundMe, no thinly veiled complaints about her rent or car problems. I stared at it for a while, didn't respond right away. The next day, she did the same thing, another simple message, like she was trying to learn how to be a sister again without asking for something.